What they've done essentially is they have threatened the lives of thousands of new Jews, people who are healthy and well today and will be murdered in the short future because of the release of hundreds, more than 1,000 to begin with, 2,000 Arab murderers, people with blood on their hands who have been convicted already with witnesses and trials and sentenced to life sentences, in some cases, multiple life sentences. They've done this before Israel. In the Gilad Shalit deal, in order to free one precious Jewish life, they released more than 1,000 Hamas terrorists, murderers. And as a result, one precious life was saved, and Hamas grew and was created into a major terrorist group. One of the 1,000 that Israel released was Yahya Sinwar, who went on to become the head of Hamas and built it. Others came out and started the Intifada in Judea and Samaria. Thousands of Jews were killed and murdered because of this deal that sent one Jew free, precious though he be. In the Jibril deal of the year 1985, Israel released 1,150 Arab murderers and associates and accomplices in return for 3 Jews, 3 precious lives. And from those 1,150, more Intifada, and more thousands of Jews were killed. That is why Jewish law, the Rambam, in Hilchot Matanot Aniyim, in Perek Chet, in chapter 8 of the laws of gifts to the poor, Halachot Yud ad Yud Bet, laws 10 to 12, particularly 12, Rambam explains, bringing down from the Gemara, Mishnah Gittin, chapter 4, Mishnah 6, that it is forbidden to pay overly amounts to release hostages. It's a great mitzvah. It's the number one tzedakah mitzvah. In the world of charity, of all forms of charity, the most important mitzvah, but not to pay above market price of Jewish lives. And what Rambam writes in his compendium of Halakha, we see in the Shulchan Aruch, the Code of Jewish Law, in Siman Reish Nun Bet, Siman chapter 252, Seif Dalet, law number 4, that you do not pay more than the market price. And this is further reiterated again and again in Jewish law. The Radbaz, Hidushei Ramban, just go on and on through Halakha. There's no mitzvah like Pidyon Shvuyim, like the redemption of the captives, but not at the expense of Jewish lives. You're not allowed to pay too much because of Tikkun Olam. Some of you have heard that term used incorrectly, but Rambam and Shulchan Aruch and Mishnah literally use the word Tikkun Olam, to prevent the world from going crazy. That's what it means. To repair the world from craziness. Because if you overpay for Jewish hostages, you create a precedent, the text says so, for other people to start demanding exorbitant and unrealistic amounts of ransom. And it raises the market price from normal to insane. Furthermore, it puts an incredibly undue burden on the living community. Whether we're talking about paying money ransom, it's demanding too much of people to pay, or if we're talking about giving up lives, Arab terrorists, it's too much to pay. And it's still tzibura. It puts too much on the community. So it's a terrible deal. Now, much of Israel will be celebrating wildly. We'll see it on the media when the first hostages come out. Because most people are fools, and they allow their emotions to override their intellect, their brains. They will see 2 or 3 faces, maybe the Bibas family, that cute little redheaded kid and little redheaded sibling and the whole family, and American hostages, that is American Jews that were living in Israel, maybe a Russian hostage, a Russian Jew who is living in Israel. And people will dance in the streets. Greatest thing that ever happened. Happiest day in their lives. They soon will also be attending funerals for the thousands who will be murdered, by the people who are released. I said people, I apologize, by the animals and dirtbags who will be released in return for these precious souls, but who must not go out for this kind of insane price. And maybe, for all we know, part of this deal, wink, wink, with Trump and Netanyahu may very well have been, Bibi, you let these people out as much as it's hard for you to swallow. And when I come in, I'm going to give you all the weapons you need, the 2,000-pound bombs, the bunker-busting bombs, end to embargo, and I will help you destroy the Iranian nuclear project. You will not have American feet on the ground, boots on the ground, because Trump, understandably to his credit, is committed to no more entanglements and wars, the way his predecessors practically have bankrupted the United States on foolish wars that we never should have gotten involved in, such as the Iraq War, which only took two countries, Iraq and Iran, who were busy killing each other, and instead resulted in an alliance and cost America life and gold and blood, so much for so little. So Trump is committed to not going on the ground, but he kills bad guys. Qasem Soleimani, he killed him. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, he killed him. He killed the leaders of ISIS, the heads of al-Qaeda, without starting wars. Bombed Syria's chemical factories. So Trump is a fighter, and he fights the good fight for the good guys. And he may have promised Bibi, if you give up these 1,000 people now, and there'll be more to give up yet, I promise you I'll give you all the weapons you need, all the air support, even diplomatic protection. I'll squeeze the arms of the European Union and of Turkey, Erdogan. The UN won't bother you. You guaranteed will be vetoing anything they do to bother you. And you can bomb the hell out of Iran. They already have lost their own air defenses. Israel's taken those out, as well as the air defenses in Syria. So Israel has clear, open avenues. Israel already has taken out Iran's ability to manufacture more ballistic missiles and has taken out 80% of their ballistic missiles. And it very well be that Trump has now said, you do this deal. And if you don't do it, or else you'll have trouble with me. And if you do the deal, I will make it possible for you to take out Iran's nuclear program. And he may also have said, let's make it 3 parts. Shlosha shalavim, 3 phases. So you'll have to swallow hard on phase 1. But between you and me, Bibi, phase 2 will, quote unquote, fail. It'll never be finished. You will not, it says you're going to make a deal on phase 2, but between us girls, phase 2 will not come to fruition. Whether you can't agree on the number of people to release or the names or identities, it stops with phase 1. And when phase 2 ends, unsuccessfully, with quotation marks, I will give you all the weapons you need, and I will give you all the support you need, and we'll twist arms in Western Europe, and we'll veto in the United Nations, and you can bomb the hell out of Gaza so that there's no more Gaza. So it looks like a desert in T.E. Lawrence of Arabia. You have my word for it, and my record proves it. It could very well be that that's the deal that we don't know about. In return for giving up these 1,000, that the United States will fully support, both overtly and covertly, Israel completely wiping out Gaza, and Israel completely wiping out what's left of Hamas, so that in the end, Hamas will not remain in existence and will not govern. It may even be that Trump has said that after the war is over, you can stay in Gaza, not call it sovereignty over Gaza, but you and the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, Tzava, Haganah Yisrael, Tzahal, can stay in Gaza, and we won't bother you. It may even be that Trump said we're going to cut down the pressure on all that humanitarian aid stuff. Frankly, the humanitarian aid stuff is not humanitarian anyway. Gaza, Hamas basically steals the trucks. They hijack the trucks just as they kidnap Jews, and they take all the product. They first use it for their own fighters and use that humanitarian aid, medical supplies, food, water, to feed and quench and aid their own fighters. Secondly, they use it for recruitment. They go to the hungry around Gaza who could use food and water and medical aid and tell them, Hamas does, if you join Hamas and join us in killing Jews, not killing, murdering Jews, we'll give you some of this humanitarian aid also, food, water, and medical supplies. And then what's left over that we haven't used for our own people and for recruiting new recruits, well, we'll put that on sale to the general public at incredibly exorbitant prices. And the money that we take in from selling this stuff will further supply us and support our terrorist activities. So it may very well be, we all know that the humanitarian support is not humanitarian. It's basically smuggling aid and support to Hamas. And it may be that Trump has said, I'm going to stop the Biden-Harris garbage, and I'm not going to force you to send this stuff in anymore. Enough is enough. So I'll even help you tear apart Iran. For all I know, I'll let you assassinate Khamenei, bring down the government. We're not going to do it. The United States, we will not do it. No more wars. But just as we wiped out Qasem Soleimani and Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, we'll let you take apart Iran, blow Gaza to smithereens, bring an end to Hamas, and stop the humanitarian aid nonsense, give you unlimited weapons of the most lethal kind. You will have great people working with you. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, he's with you. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he's with you. Your new ambassador, Mike Huckabee, he's with you. In the United Nations, Elise Stefanik, she's with you. All I'm asking, demanding, is that you let these 1,000 Arab murderers go. God willing, they'll be among those that you kill after phase 2 breaks down. And have a good time and wipe them out. And we'll be weeby. And so it could be very well that that's what the deal is about. I still condemn the deal. Jews should not pay exorbitant ransom. It makes Jews susceptible to future kidnappings. And we've seen it. Again, we saw it with Gilad Shalit. We saw it with the Jibril deal and so many others. And so I condemn the deal. It's a disaster, but it is what it is. In the book of 2 Samuel, Shmuel Bet, chapter 12, Perkei Bet, King David has been punished in the aftermath of the Bathsheba, the Bathsheba incident. She's pregnant and a baby is born to King David. And he goes with such excitement, but soon the baby becomes perilously ill, terminally ill. And David stops eating and drinking and mourning. He sits on the floor like in Avelut, in mourning. And his aides say, you've got to eat something, you've got to drink something. And he won't. And they don't know what's going to do. He's going to end up dying for all they know. And the baby, despite his prayers, Mishaberach prayers, his prayers to God, seeking atonement and expiation for the Bathsheba incident, the baby gets worse and more ill and finally dies, tragically. And David's aides don't know what to do. They know they should probably advise the king the baby has died, but they're terrified to do so because they are afraid that if they tell David, who has not eaten and drunk, nor gotten up, if they tell him that the baby has died, given the way he's been in pieces while the baby was dying, now the baby's died, God knows what he'll do. But they have to tell him. He's going to find out. And while they're whispering to each other, he's smart enough, brilliant man anyway. And he infers from all the uncomfortable whispering that the baby has died. And he basically says, has the baby died? Well, yeah. And he gets up and he eats and he drinks and he acts, quote unquote, in normal behavior again. And his aides say to him, chapter 12, Perkei Bet, Shmuel Bet, 2 Samuel, we don't get it. You were practically killing yourself and close to death when the baby was still alive but dying. And now the baby's dead and you're happy? And David says, I'm not happy. I'm in grief, I'm in mourning. But there's no point in my praying for him to survive anymore. He's dead. It's done. The deal is done. Life goes on. We'll move on from there and we'll make things work. And that's where I guess we have to be now. I'm preparing this comment just moments before the deal is done. It's been approved, and in a few moments they'll be releasing Jews and they'll be releasing Arab murdering dirtbags. And the deal is done. Can't be stopped. But there is work yet to do. We pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we pray to God, and we pray to God, Natzach Yisrael lo yishaker, the eternity of the Jewish people shall not be diminished. And we await the destruction of the Iranian nuclear program and perhaps the Iranian government. And we await the resumption of the fight in only 6 weeks that will see Israel wipe out the rest of Hamas and any resistance in Gaza. Understand, we must not ever advocate genocide. Despite what the world says, they're a bunch of liars, hypocrites and phonies, all of them. Don't even comment on the genocide right in front of their noses going on in Somalia and going on in Sudan, Darfur. Genocide all over the place. They don't say a word. But for us as Jews, because we do what's right, there must be no genocide. There must be no random killing of innocents, though one may very well ask, what innocents? A people who in a democratic election, elected Hamas, re-elected Hamas, a people who cheer for Hamas and dance in the streets for Hamas. And when the state of Israel says, I'll give $5 million, they literally have done this, we will give $5 million to any Arab in Gaza. Don't have to be an Arab, non-Arab too, but they're all Arabs, because nowhere is there apartheid like in Arab countries. Again, the phonies and the hypocrites who accuse Israel of apartheid, when Israel has a vibrant Arab Muslim community, including Arab Muslims on their Supreme Court and receiving government assistance like Social Security and unemployment and special allocations when they have children. And yet the liars of the world talk about apartheid. Apartheid takes place in Jordan and Syria and Lebanon and in Gaza, of course, and Judea Samaria, the Arab entity in Judea Samaria. That's where you find pure apartheid, where no Jew whatsoever is Saudi Arabia. But anyway, there are no innocent civilians in Gaza. When Israel has offered $5 million to any person who provides us with any information on how to find a hostage, any one of our hostages, of our 98 hostages, alive or having been murdered, we'll give $5 million in free guaranteed passage out of Gaza to wherever you want, with $5 million, just for information. And over 3 months since that offer has been made, and it continues to be on the table, not a single Arab has come forth. They are with Hamas, 100%, but nevertheless can't strafe and wipe out an entire region. That's what the United States does, as we did in Dresden. That's what the United States did when we bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Israel doesn't do that, but we wait. As King David got up and understood the efforts to prevent the inevitable failed, but let's move forward. There's more to do. So if we've been unable to stop Shlav Aleph, the first phase, let us go forward and see Iran and her nuclear program wiped out, the government of Iran fall, Gaza completely bombed and strafed until Hamas comes to an end, and until there is some kind of resolution that probably is going to require Israel going into all of Gaza and controlling Gaza for at least a year or two, until something either arrives that gets Gaza under control, or if need be, Israel will just have to liberate and annex Gaza, as she has the Golan Heights, and one day will do the rest of Judea Samaria. And through that, we will find chatzi nechamah, partial consolation, and with God's help, the bombing and strafing of Gaza after the breakdown of Shlav Bet, the second phase, will also kill many, if not all, of those who are released now. May God watch over the Jewish people. May he watch over the state of Israel. May he bless and shower his blessings on the United States of America, who remains the one solid support and true friend